The alien hall was quiet, too quiet for a welcome ceremony. The humans stood in a neat line, their boots clicking softly against the crystal floor. Captain Reeve looked around, unsure if this was a trap or a misunderstanding. Beside him stood Dr. Lena Hayes, the cultural expert, flipping nervously through her digital translator pad. Suddenly, the large doors at the front opened. A group of tall, elegant aliens walked in. They had soft silver skin, glowing hair, and strange swirling tattoos on their arms. But what shocked the humans was not how they looked, it was what happened next. The lead alien, a woman with golden eyes and a crown of light, stepped forward. She smiled gently at Captain Reeve. Then, without saying a word, she reached down and lifted the front of her long glowing dress. Everyone froze. Reeve blinked, unsure where to look. Hayes dropped her tablet. The rest of the team turned red with embarrassment. The alien woman held her dress up for a moment, showing nothing strange underneath, just smooth skin and soft light. Then she let it fall back into place as if nothing had happened. Another alien woman stepped forward and did the same, and then another, and another. The human team stood there in total shock, faces pale and confused. Reeve whispered out of the corner of his mouth, "What the hell is going on?" Hayes quickly scanned her translator, her fingers trembling. She gasped, "It's not what we think, Captain, I think this is their greeting ritual, like a handshake." Reeve frowned. "By lifting their dresses?" "Are you sure?" She nodded. "Yes, I just got a cultural file ping from the Zilari database. It says, female nobles show underdress skin to prove they carry no hidden weapons. It's a gesture of trust and peace." "Well, we just stared at them like they insulted our mothers," Reeve said under his breath. The lead alien woman stepped forward again and finally spoke in clear, gentle English. "Human leaders, we greet you with honor and openness. Please do not fear. We show you we are unarmed, you are safe." Reeve stepped forward awkwardly and bowed his head. "Thank you, honored lady, we accept your welcome." The alien woman's face lit up with joy. "You may call me Varen, daughter of the House of Shalter. This is my planet, and now it is also yours, for as long as you bring peace." Reeve smiled, still unsure what to say. Viren turned and led the way into the main hall. The humans followed, stealing nervous glances at each other. The hall was filled with floating lights, golden vines, and soft alien music that echoed in the walls. It was beautiful, strange, and completely overwhelming. Dr. Hayes whispered, "I've read thousands of alien customs, but I've never seen one like this," Reeve replied quietly. "Let's just hope we don't accidentally start a war by looking at the wrong dress." As they moved deeper into the palace, Viren walked beside Reeve. "You seem troubled," she said, her voice like a song. He cleared his throat. "Just adjusting to the welcome. That's not how humans usually greet strangers." Viren tilted her head, curious. "Do humans not show they are unarmed to new guests?" "We do, in a way," Reeve said, "but usually with a handshake or a scan." "Strange," she replied. "How do you know someone does not hide poison beneath their skin?" Reeve laughed nervously. "We usually trust people not to do that," Viren smiled. "Then your people must come from a place with little betrayal." Her words hung in the air like a question. One Reeve wasn't sure how to answer. He looked around and saw alien guards watching from the shadows. Were they smiling or silently judging? Suddenly, a loud chime rang through the hall. Viren stopped, her face turning serious. "The Grand Archive has detected something," she said, her golden eyes narrowing. "What kind of something?" Reeve asked. Viren turned to him slowly. "A trace of old human DNA, ancient, hidden in our records, buried for centuries." Hayes stepped closer, her eyes wide. "That's impossible. Humans have never been here before." Viren's voice dropped to a whisper. "Are you sure about that, Dr. Hayes?" Then she looked at Reeve, studying him carefully. "The signal came when you entered the hall." Everyone went silent. Reeve took a step back. unsure if he should be honored or terrified. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Viren smiled again, but this time, her smile was not polite. It was curious, and full of something else. Something ancient. Captain Reeve could not sleep that night. The room they gave him was warm, the bed soft, but his mind was spinning. Why did the Grand Archive react to him? How could ancient human DNA be on an alien planet no human had visited before? Outside his window, strange purple moons floated across the sky. Inside, the glowing walls pulsed gently with energy. Reeve sat up and stared into the dark. He felt watched, not in a threatening way, but as if the planet itself was studying him. The next morning, Reeve and his team were led into a large garden filled with alien nobles. The Festival of Union had begun. This was a big cultural event for the Zalari, and humans were now official guests. Dr. Hayes warned the crew again. Remember, the greeting ritual is sacred here. Don't laugh, don't flinch, just bow politely. Reeve nodded. We already survived the first round. Let's try not to insult a queen this time. As they entered the open plaza, alien music filled the air. Dozens of Zalari females in glowing robes lined up. Each one greeted a human by lifting her dress, holding it for a second, and then bowing. It was graceful and smooth, clearly a practiced art, not something shameful. Private Jenkins, the youngest of the human team, couldn't stop staring. One of the alien girls noticed and giggled. Reeve shot him a glare. Eyes up, soldier, or we'll be sent home in pieces. But the real surprise came when Viren appeared again. She wore a silver robe with shimmering green light flowing like liquid. As she stepped in front of Reeve, she performed the greeting, but this time, her skin revealed something strange, glowing. Tattoos shimmered just under her navel, forming circular patterns. The moment Reeve saw them, he felt dizzy. Something deep in his chest pulsed, as if his heart remembered those symbols. Even if his brain didn't, Hayes gasped. Wait, have seen those shapes before. She pulled out her tablet and tapped quickly. A hologram popped up, showing a matching symbol on a ruined satellite found drifting near Jupiter years ago. They matched the lost moon beacon symbols, the one no species could decode. Viren smiled gently. You see now, Captain, your kind has touched this world. Before, Reeve shook his head. But that's impossible. Our history has no record of Zalari or this planet. Viren's voice was calm but firm. Then perhaps your records lie. Or someone made sure you would forget. Suddenly, the festival music changed, and a priest in black robes stepped forward. He looked at Reeve with cold, judging eyes. Foreign blood must not taint the sacred garden, he said loudly. Viren stepped forward quickly. Priest Kalner, the humans are guests under my protection. Kalner's voice echoed. Guests who awaken ancient powers? Who stir old flames and forgotten names? He pointed at Reeve. You are not just a visitor. You are a key, a door, a danger. Reeve raised his hands. I don't want any trouble. We came here for peace. Kalner narrowed his eyes, then stopped touching what should remain hidden. He turned and walked away, his black robe dragging behind him like a shadow. Reeve whispered, What does he mean by a key? Viren looked serious. Centuries ago, there was a prophecy. It spoke of a star-born child who would return from the ashes, one whose blood would reignite the flame of truth. Hayes whispered, That flame, it's just a myth, right? Viren said nothing, only looked at the glowing tattoos on her skin, and then at Reeve's hand. You are not here by chance, human, she said softly. Something ancient moves beneath this soil. It remembers you. That night, back in their rooms. Hayes scanned Reeve's DNA and compared it to the Zalari archive. Her face went pale. Captain, part of your genetic code is alien, or at least not purely human. Reeve stared at her. What are you saying? Hayes replied, I think. Someone in your family line was here, long ago, maybe centuries ago. Reeve laughed nervously. Are you saying I have alien ancestors? Hayes nodded slowly. Maybe just one. Maybe that's enough. Reeve walked to the window again. The moons were brighter tonight, and the wind outside sang softly like a voice calling his name. He didn't know what waited ahead, but he knew. One thing now, this mission was no longer about diplomacy. It was about discovery, legacy, and unlocking a history no one believed was real. Captain Reeve stood frozen in the middle of the glowing garden. He could still see the patterns, those glowing symbols on Virene's skin, burning in his memory like fire. No one else had such marks, not even the other nobles, only her, and somehow those symbols matched Earth's most mysterious ruin, the lost moon beacon. He had never believed in fate, but now fate was staring him in the face. And she wore a silver dress. "Captain," Virene said gently, her golden eyes watching him. "Come with me." He hesitated, glancing at Dr. Hayes. She gave a quick nod. "Go. I'll handle the team, but be careful. Something about this planet doesn't want the truth found." Virene led Reeve through twisting crystal halls. Deeper into the palace, the walls began to hum, as if reacting to their presence. Each step made the floor glow faintly beneath his boots. She stopped at a smooth door made of light and whispered a phrase in her native tongue. The door melted. Open. Inside was a quiet chamber with a high ceiling and floating lights. The air was warmer, heavier, filled with old energy. In the center was a pedestal, and on it rested an ancient scroll made not of paper, but of thin metallic strands that shimmered like liquid silver. Virene said softly, "This scroll has not been read in 200 years. Only blood-marked ones can activate it." She looked at Reeve. "Touch it." He stepped forward slowly, unsure if this was a test, a trap, or destiny. His fingers brushed the scroll, and instantly it glowed red. Symbols appeared, shapes he didn't understand, but somehow felt familiar. The scroll began to speak in a deep, old voice. "In the age of fire, one came from the stars. He walked as one of us, loved as one of us, but he was not like us. His blood carried the codes of creation." Reeve stepped back, heart racing. "That voice, is it speaking about a human?" Virene nodded. "Yes, the first and only human who ever came before. He was not a conqueror, he was a protector, and—" "My ancestor," Reeve blinked. "Wait, are you saying I'm related to him too?" Virene stepped closer. "The scroll responds only to his line, and it responded to you." Reeve shook his head, trying to process it. "This is too much. I'm just a soldier, not some chosen bloodline hero." Virene smiled sadly. "You may not want the role, but it wants you." She turned around and slowly untied the sash at her waist. As her robe opened slightly, more symbols on her back glowed to life. They formed a pattern like a constellation. Reeve stared in silence, not out of desire, but awe. Each glowing mark pulsed in time with his heartbeat. "I carry the memory of my people," she said, "and now your blood has awakened it." Suddenly, a loud alarm echoed through the chamber. Red lights flashed and a voice spoke in Zelari language. Virene turned sharply. "The priesthood has discovered our location. We must leave now." She took Reeve's hand and ran down a different corridor. Walls opened and closed behind them, as if obeying her will. Guards in dark robes appeared ahead. But she whispered a command and the floor shifted beneath their feet, dropping them into a hidden tunnel. Reeve landed hard, groaning. He looked around. "Where are we now?" Virene replied, "The forgotten paths. No one alive remembers these tunnels. They were built by my ancestor, your ancestor." They walked deeper underground, torches lighting one by one. The air grew older, filled with dust and history. Finally, they reached a chamber with a stone table and a mirror made of dark crystal. Virene placed her hand on the mirror, and it lit up, showing a glowing map, a star system that didn't match anything in human records. "This is where he came from," Virene whispered. "Your ancestor. The first flame. He came from this system." Reeve stared at the map. "But this isn't in any human database. It's like it was erased." Virene nodded. "Erased by those who feared what it meant. If humans and Zelari shared blood once, They could unite again, and that would change everything. Reeve leaned on the stone table, breathing heavily. He didn't want to believe it, but deep down, he felt it like a door had opened inside him, a voice from long ago, whispering that. This was only the beginning. Asterisk. The air in the hidden chamber was thick and still. Captain Reeve felt like he was standing inside a memory that was not his own. The glowing map on the crystal mirror slowly faded, and the room dimmed. Varen looked tired, but her eyes remained fixed on him. You were never meant to find this place, she whispered. Not yet, Reeve frowned. Then why did your planet respond to me? She paused. Because time doesn't always listen to kings or priests. Sometimes it listens to blood. Their footsteps echoed as they walked down another secret tunnel. Torches lit automatically, reacting to Virene's presence. At the end of the path stood an enormous circular door made of black stone, covered in carvings. It had no handle, no buttons, no lock, just silence. This is the Forbidden's archive. Virene said, her voice low. No Zilari has entered in over 400 years. Only someone carrying the flame blood can open it. She looked at Reeve. That's you, Reeve hesitated. Are you sure about this? What if it's dangerous? Virene smiled faintly. It already is. Reeve placed his hand on the door. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the carvings lit up, one by one, glowing bright red like veins under skin. The stone trembled, cracked down the middle, and slowly opened, releasing a long sigh of trapped air inside. The room was massive, taller than a cathedral, wider than a city block. Strange floating cubes hovered in the air, each one filled with holographic scrolls, ancient recordings, and lost languages. In the center stood a broken statue of a man, in old armor, half cracked but still majestic, and around it, symbols, some human, some Zilari, some unknown. Virene walked slowly toward a nearby cube and held up her hand. It rotated, scanning her fingers, then opened. A hologram appeared, an old video. Blurry and damaged, it showed a human man with dark skin, silver armor, and burning eyes. He was standing beside a Zilari queen, hand in hand, surrounded by crowds cheering. Reeve watched with wide eyes. That's a human, he whispered. He married one of your people, Virene nodded. He became a ruler, not by power, but by love. His bloodline was honored, until the priesthood erased him. Hayes' voice came through Reeve's earpiece suddenly. Captain, we've got a problem. The local priests have locked down the main palace. They're saying you've stolen sacred knowledge, Reeve replied quickly. We're in the old archive. It's real, Hayes, all of it. History's been rewritten. Hayes sounded worried. You need to get out now. They've ordered your arrest. Virene turned to Reeve. Then there's no more time, follow me. There's something else I must show you. She led him up a spiral ramp that went around the room's edge. Climbing higher and higher, near the top was another door, smaller, but made of silver inside. They found a room unlike any other. It looked like a child's bedroom. There were drawings on the wall, stars, ships, planets, and in the corner, a small cradle made of metal vines. Reeve was speechless. This was his, Virene whispered. The first flame. This was his child's room. He stepped closer to the wall and saw something that made his legs go weak. A drawing of a human hand holding a Zilari hand, and underneath it, a word written in Old Earth English, Hope. Reeve turned to Virene. Why would your people erase this? It's beautiful, Virene looked away. Because hope is dangerous. If humans and Zilari truly became one, the priesthood would lose control. They feared unity more than war. Suddenly, a loud crashing sound echoed below. Reeve ran to the edge of the spiral ramp and looked down. Guards in dark robes were entering the archive with weapons glowing blue. They found us, he said. Virene clenched her fists. They would rather destroy the truth than let it live. She reached into a drawer and pulled out a small glowing orb. This is a memory seed, she said. It holds everything from this archive. Even if they destroy this place, the truth will survive. She handed it to Reeve. Guard it with your life, he nodded. Sliding the orb into his jacket, they started to run back toward the hidden tunnels. When the first plasma shot blasted past them, hitting the wall, sparks flew. The archive trembled. Reeve grabbed Virene's hand. "Come on. I'm not letting ancient history die on my watch." The air burned behind them as Captain Reeve and Virene raced through the echoing halls. Guards in black robes were shouting, their plasma staffs glowing blue in the shadows. Each blast that hit the crystal walls made them hum with pain. The Forbiddens archive, once asleep for centuries, was now awake and under attack. Reeve clutched the memory seed tight in his jacket. Inside that orb was the truth. Ancient proof that humans once walked beside the Zalari as allies, family, even lovers. And someone wanted that proof to disappear forever. Virene guided him through a collapsing passage, the floor cracking behind their feet. She was fast, her silver robe whipping behind her, glowing tattoos still faintly pulsing beneath her skin. As they passed a sealed door, she slammed her palm against it and whispered a command. The wall slid open, revealing another secret tunnel, this one narrow and lined with statues of long-forgotten figures. "Where does this lead?" Reeve asked breathlessly. Virene replied, "To the inner circle, the heart of the priesthood." Reeve stopped. "Why go there? Shouldn't we run?" Virene looked back, fire in her voice. "We must confront the source, not just the soldiers. We must face the high priests themselves." They emerged into a grand chamber filled with golden light. At the center stood 7 tall figures robed in black and gold, faces hidden behind bone-white masks. The chamber floor was carved with swirling runes, and a floating orb spun above them like a tiny star. The tallest priest turned toward them, voice deep and ancient. "You bring fire to a house of silence." "Virene," Reeve stepped forward. "I bring truth. The archive doesn't lie. You've hidden it for too long." The priest's voice remained calm, but cold. "Truth is dangerous, Captain, especially when it breaks what keeps our world from chaos." He raised a hand, and the air grew heavy. Virene gritted her teeth. "You fear unity. You fear what humans and Zalari could become together." Another priest stepped forward, a female by her voice. "Your love for this outsider blinds you, Virene. The last time our kind joined with humans, our skies burned." Reeve clenched his fists. "That's not history, that's fear, and I'm not him. I'm not the first flame, I'm just a soldier trying to do what's right." The lead priest extended his staff, pointing it at Reeve. "Then prove your intentions," he said. "Surrender the seed, burn the truth, and walk away." Reeve slowly pulled the glowing orb from his jacket. All eyes watched, the chamber silent. Then without warning, Reeve threw it high into the air. A hidden drone above them, small and unseen until now, caught it in flight and zoomed upward through a vent in the ceiling. The priest shouted, "No!" Reeve smiled. "Too late, I've sent it to my ship. In 5 minutes. That data will be broadcast to the entire sector." The chamber erupted, priests moving with fury, guards entering from both sides. Reeve and Virene turned to run, but a priest's staff sent out a pulse that knocked them to the ground. Pain surged through Reeve's chest, his vision spinning. He reached for his sidearm, but it wasn't there. They had stripped it hours ago. Virene screamed something in Zalari, her voice echoing like thunder. The air around her shimmered, and her tattoos glowed brighter than ever before. Suddenly, the golden orb above the priests cracked and shattered, releasing a wave of raw energy. The priests fell to their knees, holding their heads, crying out in panic. Reeve blinked through the light. Virene stood tall, her eyes burning with power. "You forgot," she said, her voice louder, deeper, almost 2 voices at once. "I carry the royal line. You serve me, not the other way around." The priests trembled, and for the first time, they looked afraid. Virene turned to Reeve, reaching down. "Get up," she said softly. "It's not over yet." He grabbed her hand, and together they ran out of the burning hall. Behind them, the chamber began to collapse, the old lies crumbling with the stones. But ahead was hope, and perhaps war. Outside, the stars had changed color, the sky glowing crimson. Reeve touched his earpiece. "Hayes, do you read me?" Her voice came in shaky but strong. "Loud and clear, Captain. That file you sent, it's already gone viral across Zalari networks. Everyone's talking." "Good," Reeve said. "Because the old guard isn't going down without a fight." Twin suns rose over the capital city of Zalaria. Their light bathed the palace in shades of gold and fire. It was the first day of the most sacred tradition in Zalari culture, the Festival of Revealing. Once every 50 years, noble bloodlines displayed their heritage, their truth, and their bodies before the ancestor flame. But this year, it would be different. This year, a human would stand among them. Captain Reeve stood at the edge of the ceremonial arena, his uniform freshly cleaned, but his heart was far from calm. Around him, thousands of Zalari filled the giant circular amphitheater, whispering, watching, waiting. At the center burned the ancestor flame, a tall column of blue fire that had never moved. "Never changed, Doctor," Hayes spoke into his ear. "Reeve, this is being broadcast to the entire planet, maybe more. Try not to faint or set something on fire." He smiled weakly. "No promises." Trumpets made of crystal sounded from the towers. The noble daughters began to appear, each wearing long flowing robes of glowing silk. One by one, they stepped onto the stage before the flame, lifted their garments just slightly, and revealed the sacred symbols etched into their skin. Each symbol told a story, a line of honor, a legacy of power, a past carved into flesh. When Viren entered, the crowd went silent. Her robe shimmered like moonlight. And as she stepped forward, whispers rose like a wave. She was walking not just as a noble, but as a rebel, a traitor to the priesthood, a friend to a human. Reeve watched her breathe slowly and then begin the ritual. She lifted her dress, revealing the glowing tattoos beneath. But unlike the others, hers changed color, flashing from silver to red, to violet, to a bright white that no one had ever seen before. Gasps rippled through the audience. The ancestor flame flickered for the first time in recorded history. Then she turned to Reeve and held out her hand. The entire arena froze. No Zalari had ever invited an outsider to stand within the circle of legacy, not even as a witness. And yet here she was, offering him a place beside her, in front of their gods, their people, their traditions. Reeve stepped forward slowly. Each footstep echoed like thunder in the silence. When he reached her, she gently turned his palm upward and placed it against her own. At that exact moment, the ancestor flame exploded upward, turning blood red for 3 full seconds before returning to blue. The priests at the upper level stood in shock. Some shouted, others dropped to their knees. The flame had recognized Reeve. It had accepted him. Viren spoke loudly for all to hear. "This human is not a stranger. He is not an invader. He carries the mark of the first flame, our shared past, erased by fear, now burns again." One of the priests tried to interrupt, but the flame roared, silencing him. The crowd broke into murmurs, confused, frightened, amazed. Some clapped. Others wept. One elder fell to the ground, whispering the old prophecy over and over. Reeve looked at Vofin, unsure what to do. She leaned in and whispered, "They need a symbol, just be honest." Reeve stepped forward, looked at the crowd, and said in simple words, "I didn't come to rule, I didn't come to steal, I came to learn the truth, and what I found is family." The crowd remained silent for one long breath. Then one young Zalari noble raised her hand and lifted her robe slightly in the old way, offering respect. Another followed, then another. Soon the entire amphitheater stood, lifting their hands and showing their loyalty to a future that now included him. The festival had become a revolution. Up above, in the palace tower, Dr. Hayes smiled. She whispered to herself, "Well, Captain, you just married a culture." Back on the stage, Viren looked at Reeve. Her eyes shimmered with tears. "The flame has spoken, and now we begin a new story." Reeve didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time, he felt something deeper than duty. He felt belonging. The stars above Zelaria burned brighter than ever. Across the galaxy, transmission beacons flashed, carrying a message once buried, now reborn. The truth of humanity's ancient bond with the Zelari could no longer be hidden. And at the center of it all stood a soldier who never asked for a crown. Captain Reeve stood beside Viren in the Grand Hall of Unity. Alien leaders, nobles, and off-world diplomats sat silently, waiting to hear what would happen next. The ancestor flame still burned outside, but it was no longer just a symbol of the past. It was a sign of change, and change had a face now. Half human, half legacy. Dr. Hayes adjusted her translator earpiece and whispered, "Reeve, the Earth Council has received the broadcast. They're not angry, they're curious." Reeve chuckled. "First time in history Earth wasn't mad about me breaking protocol." Varen stepped forward, her silver robe flowing like water. She raised her voice, strong and steady. "Today we remember who we truly are. Not just Zelari, not just human, but children of the same starfire. The old powers tried to erase our history, but they failed." She turned toward the highest balcony, where the remaining high priest stood. "Your age is ending," she declared. "You ruled by fear, you silenced truth, but the flame has spoken." The priest didn't argue. They bowed their heads, one by one, and stepped back into the shadows. The crowd below erupted in cheers, tears, and a lifting of hands in the ancient salute. Even those who once feared humans now celebrated them as brothers reborn. Reeve felt overwhelmed. He wasn't a king, not a leader, not even a trained speaker. He was just a man who stumbled into a mystery and refused to walk away from it. Varen reached for his hand and guided him to the center of the hall. There, carved into the floor, was a circle older than the city itself. She placed his palm against it. Instantly, the carvings lit up, forming the same glowing pattern Reeve had seen on her body. And in the Forbidden's archive, the room filled with humming energy. A voice deep, ancient, and shared by both human and alien tongue spoke through the floor. "Blood has returned. The song of unity begins again." All around the galaxy, people watched in awe. On space stations, mining colonies, and distant planets, humans and aliens paused to witness the moment. What had started as a diplomatic visit had become a spark that lit the stars. Back on Earth, a child asked her mother, "Mom, are we part alien?" The mother smiled and answered, "Maybe, dear, maybe we've always been." In the Hall of Unity, Varen looked into Reeve's eyes. "You are no longer just a visitor. You are part of this world now. Part of its future." Reeve smiled. "I didn't plan any of this, you know that, right?" She nodded. The best stories are never planned. That night, a new banner was raised over the palace, one stitched with both the symbol of Earth and the ancient mark of the first flame. For the first time in generations, humans were not outsiders, not threats. They were family returned. As the stars turned above, Reeve sat with Hayes, looking out over the glowing city. "So what now?" she asked. He shrugged. "Now we help them write a new chapter, one where humans don't arrive with warships, but with open hands." Hayes grinned. "That's going to break a few rules back home." Reeve chuckled. "Then let's break them together." In a quiet corner of the palace, Varen stood before the flame once more. She whispered a prayer in her native tongue, and the fire whispered back, not in words, but in warmth, a promise that the bloodline was not just alive, it was awake. The galaxy would remember this day, not because of war, but because two worlds chose to remember and chose to believe again.